Okay, so hello everyone, Shavua Tov, Shalom. Thank you for joining us. Sharona Shnayder is here with us, gonna give us a talk about her background and her story life, growing up in Nigeria, moving to Portland, Oregon, in the US, and moving at the last 7 months to Israel, doing Aliyah. Talk a little bit about her different experiences, like moving from such a different places in the global, and also taking care of our very, very precious planet with the different uh, um, um, different kind of activism that you might have exposed to, but if not, that's really okay, because this is the time to learn about her wonderful initiative that started here in Portland in 2020 called Tuesday for Trash. And been globalized all over the world since then. So I know that there is a lot of things that I can put in Sharona bio, only being 21 and doing so much good into this world. But I want to leave the stage for you to tell your story with your own words. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Tonight for you. So it's okay. I cannot be mistaken because it's
Exactly.
something right. Like it's either morning or evening. Sharona
Exactly.
is speaking to us from Israel. Also, before you start, I want to really give a great thank you to Israel 360 and Congregation Neve Shalom for co-sponsoring this event, and also PDX Hillel with Chai, the Cultural Historical Association for Israel, that brought us this wonderful event today. So Sharona, please, with no further ado, I will share my screen with all of you, the wonderful presentation that Sharona made for us.
Just put something together, no biggie. Um, Thank you so much, Eden, for the wonderful introduction. I miss everyone at PDX Hillel and Chai, but it's really awesome to be where I am right now. And I'll start by introducing myself again. So I'm Sharona. I was born and raised in Nigeria, and I moved to America, specifically to Walton, Oregon, when I was 8 years old, where I lived until I was about 21 years old. It's weird because I'm 22 now. So it's almost been a year since I moved to Israel in May 27th of 2021, right after the pandemic had started. So I don't know how many people here speak Hebrew or know Hebrew, but the typical saying is like when you meet someone, you say Shalom, Manishma, which is hello, how are you? And so I've been learning a lot of Hebrew because it's very important to get accustomed and like find your way in a new country. And unfortunately, my dad speaks fluent Hebrew, but he never taught me anything growing up. So it's definitely been very new for me. I grew up as a Christian because my mom was Christian, especially coming from an African culture. Like that was something that she really prioritized in my upbringing. And I never really got an introduction into Judaism until I started college and started going into Hillel and the Chai events, where I started getting introduced into the culture of Judaism, learning about Israel, and things that I never really thought about or was really curious about until I started learning about it. And then I realized how much there is to know, how beautiful the people are, the community is. And it got me really excited about the opportunity to move eventually to Israel, which I did last year. And obviously, I think growing up in Africa, that really shaped a lot of my life. It made me into the person that I am now, in the sense that like I grew up being sustainable without even knowing it, because growing up in Africa, a lot of the things that I had to keep for a very long time because resources were very limited. Finding things was very expensive. Clean water was in limited access. Like energy usage, you had to be very careful with how much you use because there wasn't a lot of it. So when I moved from Africa to America, it was definitely a culture shock, in the sense that the consumerist lifestyle here is very prevalent, and even when things aren't broken, people will replace them or want to buy new things. And that was so foreign to me because I was so used to keeping things for multiple years and being very proud that I was able to keep them for that long. So growing up, I was sustainable without even knowing it. So it really shaped the activism that I've shown today and I'm really passionate about now. And it carried forward when I moved to Israel. I started the global movement Tuesdays for Trash in 2020 when the pandemic had first started, just as a way to give back to the community because it was something that was really easy to do. It was a safe activity. It was an excuse to go outside. So a friend and I decided to go to our university park blocks, Portland State University, and pick up trash as an excuse to just hang out and be together and do something positive. And it became something that we just wanted to do every week. And afterwards, we thought about calling it Tuesdays for Trash because we did it on a Tuesday. And we were very inspired by Greta Thunberg, the activist, her movement Fridays for Future. So we started an Instagram page about it. We told our friends, and all of a sudden it became a global movement. And we now have people in 30 countries officially. 11 chapters and over 18,000 pounds of trash has been picked up since we started. So it's just been a really amazing way to get people to understand and see that their individual actions can make a huge difference, because the argument is usually you picking up trash isn't going to offset the fact that like globally companies around the world are polluting our oceans by like the pounds, the tons every year. But what we've seen is that like literally Tuesdays for Trash is a perfect example of how two people deciding to do something and recognizing that they have the power to actually make a change has turned into a movement that's spread across the globe. So if we can all do that, then I think it would be really surprising to see the change and the impact that we can make together. And so Eden, could you go back one more? Yeah, back. Two more, I guess, now. 1 second, sorry guys. I wanted to talk about Israel a little bit more before I talk about Tuesdays for Trash. So it's gonna be like the second slide, I think. Well, I can talk about it before I then gets to this slide. But basically, now that I moved to Israel, it wasn't like easy. It wasn't just my first choice. When I grew up in America, I didn't have like citizenship status, so there were a lot of obstacles for me, and it was really difficult to be able to work, vote, to really find like a career or an industry, or even feel welcomed. Being a woman, being an immigrant, being a person of color, being Jewish by ethnicity. It was really difficult to just feel like I belonged in this country, in America. And so the first thing that I noticed when I moved to Israel, like literally when I stepped off the plane, people, when they meet you, they're just genuinely like interested in wanting to get to know you. They want to help you and they want to make you feel safe and welcome, because everyone has been in your shoes. Most people have immigrated to Israel. Very few people were born and raised in the sense that like generationally, like they lived there for all of their life. Like everyone in their family, everyone has come from somewhere. So there's definitely a mentality of community, of working together and helping everyone. And that's something that I really didn't have a lot of in America. I had like small pockets of groups that were there for me. But in a holistic sense, it was very difficult to feel like I had like a support system in the entire community, which is crazy to think that that's what I have now in Israel. But I made my Aliyah on May 27th, and Aliyah is the term for officially moving to Israel. And what's really cool about this is that when I moved, the government was really supportive in the sense that they gave me 5 months of free Hebrew classes. They paid me, I think, like $6,000 just to help me get on my feet. And like every month they would send me a payment to like support me in the things that I needed. I was involved in a lot of groups and community groups that would like provide free things and things that you needed to furnish your home, or like just help you in terms of where to go for groceries and things like that. And they also provide health benefits. I got free health insurance, and the taxes are also severely reduced. Like my rent right now is subsidized, so that's really awesome. And so the bureaucracy, I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy. Like any country, the government has its like bottlenecks and things aren't super efficient. People don't want to work sometimes. But the trick that I learned is that sometimes you just have to cry, and then people feel bad and will actually start to help you. For guys, it's usually you have to yell. For the women, I think it's crying works the best. But it's very effective. So I recommend it if you ever find yourself in the same situation. But when I moved to Israel, I started OPAN in November. I actually just finished my OPAN last week. So אני מדברת עברית קצת עכשיו, אבל I don't speak a lot of Hebrew yet, so I'll probably need to do a second one. But it was a really amazing opportunity because in my classroom, there were people from like 8 different countries. So it was a really cool way to learn about other people's lives outside of the country, but also to be integrated together and to make new friends. And just like, I also felt like I was learning 3 other languages at the same time because our teacher would speak in French and in English and in Hebrew. And so it was really cool to have that mix of culture. And the OPAN that I went to, if you go to one in Tel Aviv, you'll likely be given the option to go to Opan Gordon, which is right on the beach. So every break we could go to the beach and just like sit and relax. There are coffee shops everywhere. It's in the heart of Tel Aviv. So it's just really awesome to be in that space every day. And it just didn't feel very real. But it was an amazing, amazing experience. And my teacher was amazing. She's the one in the bottom left corner. Definitely a character. She's like a very Israeli person in the sense that she has no boundaries, will ask you any question like under the sun. Are you married? Do you have a boyfriend? Like, what are you doing? So it made class very interesting. And the way that they taught, it was just having a conversation. So every day in class, it was just having a conversation with the whole class, which I think was a really effective way to learn. But if you look on the top right corner, you'll see like my suitcases and my bags. That's all I came to Israel with. That's it. That's all I packed. That was my entire life. And it was really hard to see because I'm not used to like seeing everything all in one place like that. Being like sustainable and a minimalist, it was kind of like something I was prideful of. I'm like, wow, like I really did it. I like put everything into like these little boxes. And this is my whole life and this is all I came with. But then I was really scared because I was like, wow, this is my whole life. This is all I came with. Like, this is it. But it was awesome. And it ended up being really beneficial because I moved around a lot when I first moved to Israel. I came on Birthright, a program called Birthright that like takes you on basically a 10-day vacation around the entire country, which is a really awesome way to see everything, learn about the history, the culture, and there's no other opportunity like it, to be honest. And the people that you spend those 10 days with become like family to you. So it's just a really awesome opportunity. I recommend it for anyone who has the chance to go. And after my Birthright trip, I did a program called Masa, which brings people from around the world to do internships in Israel. And I got placed with a company called UBQ Materials. They use trash and turn it into like an upcycled material that can replace plastic, which was obviously very in line in my values in terms of helping the environment and reducing waste and pollution. So it was really cool to be able to jump into that immediately. They gave us housing in a little neighborhood called Nachala Binyamin, which if you ever have been to Israel, it's like literally the center of Israel, right next to the Shukka Carmel, very big touristy location. You will never have the opportunity to live there ever again, unless you're a billionaire, because it's so expensive. So it was really awesome that I was given that opportunity to live there for 2 months in summer, like the height of activity and everything. So I recommend doing the Masa program that I did because it was really amazing. And honestly, through that is how I was able to kickstart the Tuesdays for Trash chapter in Israel. Because, Eden, do you want to go to the next slide really quick? Before that one. 2 more before that one. Is it possible or no? It keeps going. Okay, I'll talk about it again besides. But yeah, during my MSA program, I had been doing Tuesdays for Trash for a long time, which to go more deeper into the whole idea of it, it's just to dedicate at least one day a week for the planet by picking up trash, which is a really simple and easy thing that anyone can do as long as you have gloves and a trash bag and walk outside your door, you're gonna find trash. And I've noticed this is something that's very common, not only in Israel, but also in America, in Nigeria, in London, and all the places that I've been to. And it can be very disheartening. It can be very hard to deal with because no one wants to see their community littered. No one wants to see trash in their backyard or in their favorite trails and by the ocean and the sea. But a lot of people don't realize that it's super easy to do something about it. Because if we just sit around waiting for someone to take care of the problem, then we don't realize that everyone is doing the exact same thing. We're all waiting for someone to take care of the problem. So it takes one person to step up and decide that this is something that you're going to actually take action on. And you start to see the people around you pay attention and actually want to get involved. And so that's what we found with Tuesdays for Trash is that people around the world were looking for an opportunity and a community that shared the same values as them, that wanted to do something, that wanted to be a part of the solution. And so we started the Instagram page and we started gaining chapters and we started having people around the world picking up trash. And when I got to Israel immediately, I wanted to start a chapter there because this is my home now and I really want to be able to have a community of people that have the same values. So I pitched the idea to our coordinator for my Masa group and he was super excited about it. Literally like the next week he helped me get pizza and everything and we picked a location and we told everyone in our program and like over 30 people showed up to pick up trash at our local park area. It was amazing. Everyone had so much fun. We took a lot of photos and I didn't know this at the time, but the person who helped me coordinate was so proud of what we had done and so excited about it that he sent it to like the marketing team for Masa and they sent it to a bunch of news outlets. And so through that, we ended up making it on like 3 different major news outlets in Israel. We made it on the Times of Israel. We made it on the Mako Green page. We made it on the Israel 21C page. And even Israel, like the official account for Israel, the state of Israel tweeted about us. So it's just insane to see the response, to see how people were so excited about just people in the community doing something, taking action. And obviously like this is our home and Israelis, like being a Jewish person, taking care of the land is such a core value. And so when people see you doing this, like everyone who sees us cleaning always says kol hakavod, which means well done, because it's really important. It's something that people hold really close and near and dear to their hearts, something that we fight over, right? Like this land. And so taking care of it is very important. And that was the community response. People really loved the idea and wanted more people to see it, spread awareness about it and get involved. So it was, yeah, the whole time I was really just shocked by how much support we received and how excited people were to do this, because it's not always the case, you know, like you hear the word trash, you hear like about a problem like this and a lot of people want to stay away or they don't think that it's like something that like everyday people should do, like you do it for community service, it's not something that like you do for fun. But that was what we were trying to show people, is that it can be fun. This can be an activity that you do every day with your friends, and you can make it into whatever you want it to be, because you don't have to be doing it for community service. You can do it because it's your planet and it's your home and it's something that you should want to take care of. So yes, do you want to move to the next slide, Eden? I can't hear you, but
yes, I just, from some reason, I don't know why I can't just like move back and forth. So I
no
just just a sec.
But in terms of post the response that we received, another question we often get after people do cleanups with us is like, how can we so before that one, yeah, that one. I guess you can start at the, no, it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah, what?
So, no, it's okay, don't worry. Or yeah, the quote one. Yeah. So every time I get interviewed about Tuesdays for Trash and people ask me why I do it, because it's not my trash, obviously, I'm not the one that's tossing it. I would never do that. My response is always this quote, which is actually by Bill Nye. Sometimes you have to leave a world better than you found it, or sometimes to leave a world better than you found it, you have to pick up someone else's trash. And it's really true because when you think about the oil industry and Exxon, Chevron, these companies that are actively polluting our planet and causing all of these like air pollutants to be in our atmosphere, Coca-Cola and Nestle that are actively creating plastic that's ending up in our oceans, on our streets, they're the ones who are causing the problem, but it's still your home. So I think it's important to show where your priorities lie, and by actually picking up trash, you're sending a behavioral signal to the people in the communities around you, and you'd be really surprised how many people are actually paying attention. Which is what we found. A lot of businesses have reacted to us, have commented about the work that we're doing, and showing that they care and want to do something because people are calling them out for it. No one wants to see their trash being the one that like someone else is picking up, because it shows that they're guilty and they're the ones who caused it. So it's really effective in that sense. And the more people we can get to do it, the bigger the impact. Next slide. So the first thing I always recommend to people when they ask me how they can help or get involved is to learn and to listen. I don't think I'm an expert in this. I've been doing it for many years, but I'm still not like a scientist or a certified expert in waste management. And so I always encourage people to listen, to the people who are experts in the field, but also the people who are on the front lines of the crisis. So take people in Africa and people in the Pacific Ocean, like island nations that don't receive like enough resources or adaptation mechanisms to actually cope with the issues that they're seeing because of climate change and the plastic and the waste and trash that ends up in their oceans, depletes their fish count, pollutes their areas. And so listening to these people is really important because they're the first to face the impacts. And if we don't take care of them, then they're going to be the ones to suffer the most. So listening to them, then taking action by understanding what the challenges are and where you can get involved. You don't have to get involved by just picking up trash. I think the best way for people to get involved is to decide what they like to do and what they're really passionate about, and then finding a way to plug that into what's already going on, because oftentimes you can contribute in ways that are very unique to you. Like say you're very good at art, you could help by going to a cleanup and taking the trash and turning it into an art piece that can be very meaningful and signify like a higher message than someone who is like me picking up the trash. I had no idea how to turn it into an art piece that people would like want to see or feel compelled by. So everyone can contribute in little ways and big ways. It just depends on what you're passionate about and what ways you want to get involved. And then mobilize. So talk to your friends, tell your community, find organizations near you. It's so easy to do a Google search and just say, I'm looking for environmental organizations in California or in Tualatin, and you'll likely find a bunch, especially on Facebook. There's always a group for it. So don't feel like you need to start a global movement by yourself like I did. It's not, it's a very intense approach to things. I think it's much easier to just join things that are already going on and go from there. So next slide. After this one as well. Sorry. So, okay, I know that was a lot. So just to share more about myself in general, life currently for me, I live in Holon, which is a city that's closest to Tel Aviv. So I take the bus 20 minutes every day to go to work, and I work at a climate tech startup called Albo Climate. We use AI technology and satellite imagery to map and monitor carbon sequestration so that we can fund projects around the world that are actively removing carbon from our atmosphere. And I work in marketing for them, so helping them message and like secure interviews and press releases and things like that for the company. And we were actually featured in Forbes. So that was a really cool moment for me. It was like a month into working there, and I got that and I was like, now I don't have to work the whole rest of the time because I like did this. No, but it was really awesome. And it was a really cool opportunity to see that when you actually just like present a message in a way that people can relate to and understand and like is relative to what's going on, then it's really easy to get opportunities like that. So in terms of like just rapid fire questions that I thought people might want to know, how did I meet new people? It was very hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was very difficult because all my friends I made on Birthright and Masa, I didn't realize or think about the fact that they would all be going back to their home. Like I was the only person who was moving to Israel right after. So it was hard, but I think the best places that I found friends was through doing Ulpan. I made a lot of really good friends at work, which was not the easiest because it's like high tech, a lot of older like males. It was not very woman heavy, which we need to change. I would like to emphasize. But I think also for me, this is a non-conventional way, but a big way that I made friends was I made a TikTok about it. I was like, I just moved to Israel. I don't have any friends. I would like people to like go hiking with and things like that. And I was lucky enough that it went viral and people like wanted to be my friend and reached out. And so I made a lot of friends through doing that and through like Tuesdays for Trash. A lot of people that came were my age or internationals. It just happened to be that way. I don't really know why, but whenever I would post on Facebook groups, the people that would join our group were the people who were from like different parts of the world, who had just moved to Israel like me, who were in my age group. And so we've become very, very good friends through that. And do I enjoy life in Israel? I love life in Israel. If you've been paying attention to the news lately, there's obviously like some discord and like things happen, terrorism. It's the Middle East, so it's not easy. But I would argue that life anywhere else around the world also has its challenges. In America, there's school shootings like every month, and it's not always easy to live in that society or in that atmosphere. But for the most part, I think that living in Israel has been amazing for me. It's so cool to be able to see different parts of the country in the sense that like before moving here, I thought Israel was just a desert. I had no idea. I really had to look up if there were trees here. I was I was concerned like coming from Oregon if I would come to Israel and there would be no trees, like how I was going to survive, how I was going to cope, because being in nature and having that sense of like nature around me is very important for me. But now I live only a 10-minute bus ride from the beach, so I can go to the beach whenever I want, and like you can take the bus out to the desert, to Jerusalem, like the holiest city in the world. There's so much to do and explore in Israel. There's so many hikes. The community, like I said, is amazing. I was telling Aden right before this, I was like, I picked up a dresser from this person who was giving it away for free in this group that I'm in. And I was lugging it by myself. Like it was a 9-minute walk to the bus I had to get to. And of course, in typical Israel fashion, this woman saw me. She was like 50 years old. And she comes up to me, she's like, let me help you. And she carried it with me like the whole 5 minutes rest of the way to the bus stop. And it was heavy. It was so heavy, but she was carrying it with me the whole time. And I found out she was from Ukraine and she was born and raised in Kyiv. And she had been living in Israel for 22 years. And it was just incredible. And things like that happen to me all the time in Israel. People that I don't know will come up to me and help me in ways that like I couldn't have dreamed possible. So compared to the US, I think life here is much more welcoming. People help you more than just a superficial level. It's very genuine. They actually really care about you. They're funny. They're very blunt. If people like you, they let you know they like you. And if they don't, then they don't. And I think that like it's what you make of it. So if you come here and you decide that you want to have a good and happy and successful life here, then you will. And if you don't, then it's going to be difficult. So that's been my experience so far. Next slide. Yeah, so I know that was a lot, everyone. Thank you for bearing with me. And I would be more than happy to take questions, answer anything that people are curious to know more about, any points of clarification.
Thank you so much, Sharona. I was like nodding for the entire presentation, hearing you, understanding exactly what you're talking about, and the unique I would say the unique challenges that we have back in Israel that makes you be at the same time mad and happy. It's just like this mixed feeling all the time around so many interesting and like diverse topics. You have here, we have a couple of questions here that I see on chat and some others that we made for you in advance. So I see Sarah's asking about Tuesday for Trash. When did it started? I believe you said it started 2020. Yeah, there is any significant, it's related to the pandemic that we've been experienced. And also, if I can add another question into it, there is any significant around the day? Like, is it Tuesday is like something significant? Can be any other day. What is the reasons around that?
Yeah, so we started Tuesdays for Trash in May of 2020. So we're coming up on 2 years this May. And the reason we chose Tuesdays is because we did it on a Tuesday and like it was catchy, Tuesdays for Trash. And we wanted it to be like Greta Thunberg's movement, Fridays for Future as well. But honestly, like the idea of Tuesdays for Trash was just to set a routine for people so that like they can it's almost like a gateway into activism, because picking up trash is such a low bar, like basic level of activism that anyone can do and be introduced into this world. And we found that the more you pick up trash, the more you see it everywhere, the angrier you get and the more you want to do something. So it's a really cool way to introduce people into the world of activism. And through our social media, we educate people on how they can get more involved, teaching them about like different materials and plastics and ways to be better. We also post a lot of memes because we know it's very like traumatic talking about extreme weather and climate emergency all the time. So having like a fun meme to break things up but still educate people is always something that we like to do. But I would say that, yeah, the goal is to get you to just start picking up trash every week. It doesn't have to be on Tuesday. Tuesday is just a way to set a reminder for everyone.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. There is another question. Have you met, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but Greta?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I haven't met her in person because she doesn't travel very often. She only goes to like the climate conferences and things. And we have interacted on social media before. I made a post and she liked it and she commented on it. So that was cool. But I'll likely meet her at the end of this year because I'm going to COP27 with my company in Egypt. So if she's going to be there, then I'll likely meet her there.
That's amazing. I saw a couple of video of her, and she seems like an interesting, terrific person to me.
Yeah.
So many like I think she bring up the importance around climate change and also the emotional, personal connection into it, that I think that this is the thing that for me works the most, when somebody is so close to a topic and that it's almost like being part of them completely. So I think like in a very early age, as you only being 21, doing such an amazing things into this plan, into this world, it's just fascinating and amazing. There is another question that I see here. Is it hard to find it to find a it's like
environmental.
Sorry, thank you. Job on the high tech, maybe some recommendation how to start without prior actual experience.
Yeah, so for me, I studied accounting in college, so I didn't even get a degree in environmental anything. It was just something that I learned on my own and got really passionate about. And once you start working in this field of like climate action and being involved in the climate movement, it's hard not to learn things because it's so personal, it's so direct that like you really want to understand everything that's going on because it's going to impact you eventually, or it already is. And I like how you mentioned that when Greta talks about this crisis, it's very direct and personal, because I think that's like the Israeli way of talking about things. It's like you have to like you lay it all out there, like you make it very personal, and it's very effective. For me, I got the job actually in a very Israeli way as well. Someone messaged about it in a WhatsApp group that I was in, like, hey, we're hiring. And I was like, might as well. So everything in Israel, if you don't know, happens on WhatsApp or Facebook. So if you're not on either of those, then like good luck. But it wasn't hard for me, and I just am very good at talking to people. So in the interview, like I made it seem like, not that I didn't have the skills, but obviously like I communicated in a very good way about my skill set and like what I could bring to the position, and they liked it. So I don't think it's too hard to get involved in this field if you're passionate. Passionate is one of the main things that they look for. So that's really my biggest tip, is be passionate about what you want to do. I can't hear you, Aden.
There is another question I see from Laura, but I want to keep it for maybe for the last ones. Before, I want to ask you a couple more that we made for you. Maybe take you a little bit a step back before this whole initiation. Maybe you can tell us about the moment or the moments that made you feel that you need and can do these changes in your life when it comes to climate changing and bringing it to other people's life as well. What was those moments that?
Yeah. So in terms of like what made me like decide to become an activist, I think it was watching one of Greta Thunberg's speeches to the UN in 2018. Like she was speaking to them, and I'd never seen a context like that, like a 15, I think she was 15 at the time, a 15-year-old girl speaking with like UN and parliamentary members about like this very serious topic. She was saying very big and scary numbers that like I'd never heard before. And studying accounting at the time, like numbers were very big for me. They were like very staggering, and they called my attention. And so I did research, and I was like trying to see if what she was saying was true or not, because if it was true, then that would be terrifying. And what I found was not only was she like correct, but there were a lot of like conversations happening about this that I'd never like come across before, and I didn't realize were happening, because the media tends to shy away from like scaring people in that sense, because it's a very politicized issue. And so the more I learned, the more scared I got, and I decided that I didn't want to look back and wish I'd done more. So I started doing little things. I started with just reusable utensils. I bought a pair, and I was like, I'm not gonna take plastic anymore when I go out to eat, because it's something simple I can do and it makes me feel better, and I feel like I'm doing something. And for Christmas at my work that I was working at in Portland, I got everyone reusable utensils, and they loved it so much. They used it every single day, and I was like, wow, like look at this impact that I'm having. Like I started doing it, and then I got them to start doing it. I wonder like how many people I could talk to and like get them to do something as well. So it really started like super little like that, deciding to do one little thing, taking as far as I could, and then moving on to the next thing, which was trash, like picking up trash. So yeah, that's how it started for me.
This is so amazing, because even I remember we had a talk before you left at the coffee shop next, like downtown, and I asked you the same question, and I think it was the days that it was exactly what you just described. You started using utensils that is not disposable, and you carry it with you, and I was like, what is this that you just took out of your bag, and you just showed me the whole set of things that you carry with you everywhere. And I remember when I dropped you off at your place, in my car there was some plastic bottles, and I was so ashamed, and I was like, I need to do some changes. And I just want to let you know that I bought recently my new water bottle, and I put a lot of stickers on it, and I just make it my own. So actually it can be a fun thing to do. Like
Exactly.
you can have your own personal customized utensils, whatever you use in a daily basis, that it's only yours, and it shows your character in a lot of ways. So it's creating great engagement with other people. So thank you for that, because I really enjoy it.
Thank you for doing something and choosing to do something.
This is inspiration. This is what inspiration do, I'm guessing. And I want to ask you, because Israelis can be very like when there is something doesn't sit with us. Sometimes we are like given the side eyes or given some criticism or like, what is that? What are we doing? We are always asking questions. So I want to know, what was the reactions that you got from people when they saw you collecting trash randomly for parks, beaches, like everywhere in public spaces? What was, people ask you questions? How was this interaction went?
So it was very varied. Like I got a lot of different responses. Some of them were very Israeli, some of them were like, you know, like more out of the box. But most of the time people would just say kolakavod, like well done. And then I'm like, you can come do it too. And they'd be like, like they're hesitant to like do it themselves, but they're very quick to praise you for doing it. Other people would go above and beyond out of their way. Like they would see us picking up trash and then they would join us. Like multiple people, when we do our cleanups, have just seen us on the beach and decided to stay for the entire time cleaning up with us, which has been amazing. I've had a few times where like I see people actively littering and I call them out for it. I'm like, Lama, like, why are you doing this? And they get very ashamed. And no one gets angry, but they get ashamed, which is, I think, like a very important thing to note, that like no one should feel prideful for like trashing and littering our environment. And so when you call them out on it, then it really like sticks with them and it makes them feel bad. And hopefully in the future, it also helps them to never do it again. So I think the response has been very varied. We've never gone like an angry response. No one has been like, you shouldn't do that, or like, why are you doing this? But people will ask questions. They'll ask like if we're in a group, if they can join. And all the time I say yes. We're Tuesdays for Trash. You can come with us. We clean up every month. So yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, and I feel like this is the aspect of a shame. I think it's a huge part of it, especially back home. I can understand what you are talking about, like this position of like seeing another person like collecting trash is not. It's always look in our mind as a poor image, so people doesn't want to be like related into it, but when you're putting so many like values into it, and even Jewish values of like keeping your community together, clean and healthy as much as we can, I think that can be, people can relate into those messages better than the actual just like action of like taking trash in bags. And I'm happy that you've been able to learn that really quickly about the Israeli society and find ways to play around it and still gathering people around you in this wonderful action. There is another question here that Randy is asking. I'm not sure I know what is, oh wait. Does Tuesday for Trash in Israel attract Israeli citizens from all backgrounds? First question. Does it help people who won't ordinarily meet or socialize with each other or do so?
Yeah, so it's been hard to get actual like Israel-born Israelis to join because I don't speak very good Hebrew. So a lot of the flyers that we put out are in English. So that's a reason why we get a lot of expats and like people who are immigrating to Israel who join us. I have convinced a lot of like my Israeli friends who are actually Israeli to come, but we don't have, our demographic is mostly like people from other countries that have moved to Israel. But we're working on trying to get more people who are actually like natural Israelis to join, because I think that's important to get the community involved. We're working on some programs for the summer, and what's really cool actually is that we're launching a pilot program with Birthright this summer, where every Birthright group for tailor-made Birthright programs are going to do Tuesdays for Trash. So right now we have like 20 groups who are scheduled this summer to do them with us. So I think that'll be another cool avenue to like talk to more people and get the word out. So maybe more Israelis will hear about it the more that we clean and like mobilize in the community. And you asked something else, I think, Eden. Did I touch on everything?
I think you did, or if it's help. The other question was, does it help people who won't ordinarily meet or socialize with each other to do so?
I think so, because when we clean up, no one knows who's gonna show up. It's not like you like have a list of people that you can check and be like, oh yeah, that person, that person. And we also collaborate with a lot of organizations. Like there's an organization in Bat Yam that we've done a lot of cleanups with. And there are some international schools who've reached out to us to have their students come and clean up. So it's definitely like a weird mix, but like a cool mix of people that end up showing up. And I think also like the people that just see us cleaning up and decide to join, they're definitely not like expecting the people that like they end up cleaning up with, or it makes it more of a diverse group that way.
It's amazing. There is a did you saw any groups from Oregon that gonna do this project or supposed to come to Birthright to Israel?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think the groups for Tailor Made are from Canada and probably mostly New York and like those places. But if there were groups from Oregon, it'd be really amazing. I'd be really looking forward to that.
That's amazing. I have another question for you, and please, if anyone have more, please put it in the chat. I will see them and give them to Sharona. So Israel is a country, obviously, we know with a lot of attention, current event that happened in the past week and a half. And it comes in very different shapes and way, political, social, cultural issues that we are dealing with as a country. What do you think about the future of this kind of movement? Do you believe Israelis can make it priority to educate the next generation about the importance of keeping our planet clean?
Yeah, I think that actually Israel is probably going to be one of the first sustainable nations in the world, just because it's such a small country and the community like center of everything is such a bandwagon mentality that if we can get people to care, I think it'd be very easy to get the entire country to care about sustainability and actually like do things and want to change. And we've seen it start to happen in the sense that the president of Israel declared climate change an emergency for the first time last year. And he also has implemented a forum that is going to be established soon with young generations and like people who can actually influence and bring the passion and like the emergency that we need for climate action right now. And they're also implementing a fund for, I think, over $1 billion to fund climate sustainability and climate tech startups in Israel, so that we can get like our startup community to focus on this issue and devise new and innovative ways to solve the problem. I think also the fact that like we've already seen Israel innovate with agriculture in terms of being sustainable, because it's something that like we did out of necessity. A few years ago, like water was a very scarce resource in Israel, and until we created a system that was able to turn like salt water into fresh water that we could drink. And so that was something that we did because we had to, but more people are starting to think proactively, so that before these things become a problem, we're able to take care of it and creates like a system so that everyone in the world, in the country, can have access to these things. And we've also seen Israel lead in terms of things like COVID. Everyone looked to us in the beginning because we were the first to get most people vaccinated and like become more calm in terms of dealing with a pandemic than everyone else, because it's very easy to get people in Israel on board with something if they know it's good for them and they know it's going to protect them and keep them safe. So on that note, like there is a lot of conflict and tension in Israel, but I think that doing cleanups and like Tuesdays for Trash is a really awesome way to bring the community together, whether you're Israeli or Palestinian, because if you're going to fight over a land that you're not taking care of, then it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So if we can get people to come together and do cleanups together even, then I think it provides a level playing field to have a conversation and really work together on ways to preserve this land so that everybody can live in peace and harmony in this country.
Thank you. Wow, makes me so optimistic. For some reason, I don't know. In my mind, I thought your answer would be less optimistic because maybe there is some gaps. But I'm so happy that different fields like trying to do their best in order to educate the next generation, because we know it's hard.
Yeah.
it's a hard topic, especially when you're dealing with so many other things around you.
Exactly.
How can you make priority of such an important like things that related to our life? Um, I wanted to ask you, being an Israeli, Nigerian, American, Jewish, Christian, this all ethnic identities, how did it help you navigating with the Israeli society?
Um, Honestly, it was hard because I didn't really know where I fit in at first. I was like trying to do everything, being a part of all things, and like I just kind of realized that like I'm just gonna be me in this place, and like whatever community like I end up in is where I was meant to be, sort of thing. I don't know. I think like it was unique for me because everyone I met was very like surprised to hear that I was a Nigerian Israeli. Like no one assumed I was Israeli, especially with my American accent. It was very hard for people to be like, what do you mean you're not Israeli? Um, but it was cool. It was cool to be able to like say that to people, especially as I learned to speak Hebrew and could kind of like make my way better, prove to people that I was Israeli better. But I think it was an asset for me in the sense that like I come from a very different background growing up in Africa, and in a lot of ways it was very similar to life here in Israel, like the ways that people and the community interacted with each other, and the mentality I think was the same in a lot of ways. We also grew up with a lot of corruption. Like there's some corruption in Israel, like nothing is perfect, but I think when you understand the perspective of people and start to understand like how to live life in a new place, it just becomes very fun, and it's cool to just meet different people all over the world and get to tell your story and hear their story, because everyone comes from somewhere different, but at the same time we all come from the same place, being Jewish. Like we all immigrated from like one place or another. I'm Ashkenazi Jewish, so a lot of people I meet here are also Ashkenazi, like they came from Poland, and like the history is very very similar at the end of the day.
Oh, this is fascinating. I want to be a fly on your wall when you interact with people, because I know it's like super interesting, because it's like a good combination between not understanding but still like being very engaging with asking questions, because
Yeah.
people want to know. It's not like you probably like getting into a room, it's like a bunch of like questions. I want to ask, how many times people ask you, are you Ethiopian?
I think for me, like my hair is a little different, so like that gives me away that I'm not Ethiopian. And then the American accent, they're like, no, she's not Ethiopian. But if I did have any sort of accent, and if I did my hair differently, people would immediately be like, yeah. But it's really awesome to also get involved with the different African communities here too. It's not a big community, but everyone's very welcoming, and it's beautiful. I went to an Eritrean wedding last year, and it was just incredible. Like I really encourage people to get out of America like whenever you can, because the things and the people and the culture that you see is unlike anything you've seen before. And everywhere is like this. Like in America, I feel like if you go from one state to another, like there's different accents and like certain things are different, but for the most part, like the ways that the system works and like everyone's upbringing is pretty much the same. In anywhere else in the world, it's so different. So yeah, I think it's really important to travel whenever you can, and obviously the pandemic has made that harder, but things are starting to get easier to travel, so I recommend it.
Yeah. Oh, I miss weddings in Israel. It's such a blast
It's amazing.
everywhere. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can enjoy the culture and the
the
beautiful
food, yeah.
food, every single thing of it. A question from the chat that actually, wait, am I missing anything? I know we have only few minutes for this call, but I wanted to ask, knowing that in the Israel culture, when it comes to do big changes, like changing platform, bringing things that important to us in the front of the stage, you in some point have to be involved with the Knesset or start with politics. Is it something Knesset is the Israeli parliament. Have you ever, I know it's early, but do you think about career in politics or like to be a member of the Knesset, the prime minister?
The prime minister.
There is like some future thoughts about being part of this field, or being in that is like more of your style, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that down the road, I definitely want to run for prime minister eventually. And I think before that, I have to do another OPAN and then get involved as a member of the Knesset and then work my way from there. But it's not something I want to do. I don't want to be prime minister, but I think if it comes down to it and no one has stepped up to do what needs to be done in this country and also to influence the world, then I think I'll have to, because it's just the next logical step. I can't keep talking about this issue forever and running in circles, like picking up trash forever. I think that eventually it's just going to come down to having to implement the policies and the legislation that we need to change things. So it will happen down the road if no one else steps up to the plate. I really hope it doesn't have to be in like 5 or 10 years when I'm the one who's running, but we'll see what happens.
Listen, who knows? Who knows? Things happen, administration change. So I'm holding my fingers that if not the prime minister, starting your career there, because I think it's important that your voice were heard in those fields as well, because there is some people that need to be educated around it, and it's not a shameful thing. As I said, it's never too late to start to do something. I know we need to wrap it up and like be closing this wonderful talk we just had. Any last questions people have? You can unmute yourself, or let's see.
Oh, so there were a couple in the chat. One I think is important is, how do you avoid getting burnout?
Yes.
Doing this work?
I laugh because I am very burnt out. But I think it's important to also start building a community and a support system that can like take over when you are burnt out and tired. Like we have a group chat of almost 80 people now that are involved in leadership, but also just participating in the movement here. And there's a few people that I can rely on to, sorry for the siren, I don't know if you can hear it. But there's a group of people out here, it's getting louder. But there's a group of people out here that I can trust now and who have participated enough to be able to help me. And it's just about recognizing that you can't do everything yourself, especially the movement as a whole. We have a lot of people who are working with us, like in our core team around the world, running our social media, running the graphic design and things like that. And we're onboarding a new intern from Austria this summer as well. So as the movement grows, we're also getting more support, and it's taking the weight off my shoulders. And hopefully we will be able to actually pay people to work for the movement. I'm hoping by the end of the year, because we have some investors and some with Birthright is paying us to do the cleanup. So that'll be a really awesome opportunity to start funding more support for the movement.
It's amazing. Any upcoming events that we should wait for, or like that you're working on that you want to share with us today? Because I bet the spring probably has come up with so many wonderful projects. So anything you want to share with us?
Right now, for Earth Week, we're working with an organization in Panama to create some action items that everyone can take throughout the entire week. So like on Tuesday, it's Tuesdays for Trash, Fridays for Future, Monday, it's Meatless Monday. Just little things that you can do every day of the week leading up, so that not only like during Earth Week are you thinking about and actively taking actions for the planet, but even beyond, you can do this every week, every month of the year. And also you can find more information about local groups in your community that are doing cleanups through the Instagram pages we have. On Tuesdays for Trash, our main page, we have a little highlight reel of all of our chapters, so you can check out if there's one near you, and just kind of follow us and see what we're doing. We'll be posting all the information there.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. If it's okay with that, we will share your info, your email, with people that maybe have questions to how to start their own initiative in their own communities. That will be okay if we will share that with everyone.
Definitely.
Amazing. Thank you again so much. I believe Lisa and Cheryl already put in the chat our next programs that Israeli 360 is planning for our community. And Cheryl, do you want to say what will be the next program?
Sure. Well, we put a link in the chat for the evaluation for this program. And on May 4th, I think it's May 4th, in person, our first program in person for the year, we're going to have Paul Margolis, who is a photographer who does photographer in black and white, who has made 4 trips to Israel to take photos, and it's Israel Impressions. And he takes photos of Christians, Muslims, Jews, and he's going to present his photos and talk about them. So I think it should be a very interesting program. And we put the registration link right in the chat. So you can register today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
only
put this together.
a few days before Yom Ha'atzmaut. So if you don't have any place to celebrate that, this is a wonderful opportunity. Again, thank you so much, Sharona, for wonderful presentation. Please keep up the amazing work. It's needed, and please educate our wonderful countries, right, and the rest of the world how to treat our planet better.